statement and what it says the Social Security Administration address is.
Do you know that you don't get Social Security yet? You're too young. Can you look up the address while we're right here? I'm almost done.
Well, we're
Getting ready to start?
we're starting.
Yeah. Oh. Sorry.
We're good.
Ready?
We're good.
Good evening, everyone. Call to order the meeting of Board of Adjustment, City of Delray Beach, on February 1st, 2024. Diane, please call the roll.
Or Ramirez.
Here.
Seth Mitchell.
Here.
Richard Kaiser.
Here.
Jess Schlosser.
Here.
Brenda Cullinan.
Here.
Alec Hayes.
Here. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There's no changes.
Can someone please make a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Or Ramirez.
Here.
This
yes.
is for the agenda.
Okay, yes.
Okay. Seth Mitchell.
Yes.
Richard Kaiser.
Yes.
Jesse Schlosser.
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan.
Yes.
Alec Hayes.
Yes. We do not have any minutes that need to be approved tonight. Now we are going to have swearing in the public. Please know that if you are planning to speak on any items tonight, you need to be sworn in.
Please raise your right hand. By the authority vested in me, the notary of the state of Florida, do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Yes.
Is there anyone in the public tonight who wishes to speak about the item that is not on the agenda? We don't have anyone. This hearing shall be conducted in accordance with the City of Delray Beach quasi-judicial rules. The applicant and the city shall be permitted to present their case. The public shall be allowed to speak for 3 minutes each, or a maximum of 6 minutes if the person represents an organization or a group of people who are present but agree not to speak. The board members, staff, and the applicant may be allowed to cross-examine a witness. The city or the applicant will be allowed to offer rebuttal testimony. The decision to approve or deny an application or appeal may not legally be made upon personal views as to whether a project is a good project or not, nor may a decision be based on the numbers of citizens who support or oppose a particular project. The law requires that all decisions must be made on the basis of whether the project meets the requirements of law, the comprehensive plan, and the land development regulations. Now I would like to call the first item on our today's meeting agenda, which is 325 Sandpiper Lane, 2024-053, consideration of two variances request from Land Development Regulations, Section 434K, Development Standards Matrix, Residential Zoning Districts, to reduce the existing front west setback from 30 feet to 7 feet 6 inches, where a minimum of 30 feet is required, and to reduce the side street north setback to 10 feet, where a minimum of 17 feet is required, associated with an addition to the existing single-family residence. And on the owner's side, we have Mr. Gary Iliopoulos, and on the city side, Alexis Rosenberg. We are going to start with ex parte communication. An ex parte communication? And we will be starting with applicant's presentation.
Madam Chair, board members, my name is Gary Leopoulos. My address is 1045 East Atlantic Avenue. I am representing GE Architecture and our client tonight. They are here, the residents of 325 Sandpiper. Should you have any questions for them, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer anything for you guys. I think this is a unique situation. I have been before this board before, and it's usually for this type of project. We're dealing with a unique part of Delray in which the lots are a lot smaller than the current zoning is. Now, staff does talk about the report that this house was done by Sam Ogren. For those who don't know who Sam Ogren is the grandfather of architecture of Delray Beach. He was the first registered architect. It is a mission that most architects have in Delray to preserve his work. It's a legacy. Some of the most prominent places in downtown Delray were done by Sam. This just so happens to be another house that was done by him. Now, the beauty of this is that it's in an area of Delray Beach where everything's getting knocked down. We're going bigger and better, all right? And a lot of people would say not necessarily better. When we look at this house, we're going to be talking about what we feel is something where you go back and retrofit some homes and meet today's needs. It's also in a very unique situation on how it's situated on the property and how the streets run into this house. As staff has pointed out in their report, they basically did say when this house was done, most likely it was done to code. The codes have changed over the years, and the zoning has, and the criteria has. Basically, what you're seeing here is Lang Street, which is running actually west to east. It's a one-way street, which is another rarity that we have in Delray Beach. And then you have Sandpiper Lane. Sandpiper Lane runs right into 325. When I say that, normally when you're running into a street and it's a dead end, you have a cul-de-sac. There's a clear distinction of where the property ends and where the public begins. In this case, it runs right into their driveway. Therefore, there's a lot of times people are driving right into their property, realizing they are actually no longer on a public street. Along the north side is also another narrow road. That's Sandaway Lane. So it's running right into them along the north side. So there's the house. One of the things that we went with staff was which way is the front, which way is the side, the rear. Again, this is a very unique piece of property because the property actually extends across, if you will, Sandpiper Lane, which makes it unique in just that sense alone. Right here is a quick little diagram of all the neighbors that are supporting this project. But I believe staff said you only received 6 emails today. I'm sorry, misrepresent, I'm showing 10, but those are the people that we contacted that said they were going to write in. But the fact is they are supporting it. The neighbors do feel this is something that's justifiable. Here you have Lang Street. So Lang Street is a one-way street. Like I've described, it is running west to east. I bring that up because, again, it makes it difficult for my client to leave their property in certain situations. Now, most right-of-ways, public right-of-ways, are 50 feet. This is a one-way street, so it's only 20 feet. The actual asphalt is actually down at 14 feet. Now we're looking at Sandpiper. So Sandpiper, as you can see, it's literally running right into, there's a white car up there. That is the driveway at 325. So this road runs right into it. Now, the fact of the matter is this street is narrow. It's 1410. And what we're showing here is a public right-of-way. That's 30 feet. So you can see on the west side, it's going quite far into the property. And then on the east side, it's also going to that property. The common right-of-way in Delray Beach is 50 feet. So we're down 30 feet. One of the things I want you to think about is when I'm talking about this house, where that white car is, when they want to leave, if anybody's on this street, it could be a delivery, it could be landscaping, it could actually be construction. Now, a lot of construction has been going on in this area, and most people are saying, well, it's probably done. It seems to be turning over, and people are constantly constructing stuff. So on its best day on a clear street, they can get in and out easily. Any kind of congestion there, they got to get out there, and then they have to turn and go east because it's still only one way. Again, making it difficult when you have a family and you have situations sometimes where you need to get out of there. This is just an overview, again, just kind of showing the streets, again, laying along the bottom, Sandpiper running right into our client's property. There's the property. Again, it's kind of unique and it's situated. So again, when we met with staff, we had to figure out where is the front setback, where are the sides. Normally, if this was a cul-de-sac, and it ended at our client's house, we would actually get reduced setbacks because of the way a cul-de-sac works. In this case, staff did go back through the records and found that permits were pulled, and when the permits were pulled, they determined that the west side was actually the front setback. So again, another overview, you're starting to see, here's the house, there's where we're proposing this one-story garage today. As far as You've got sandpiper running from the top down, and you have sandaway at the other side. What we're talking about today is offering or trying to provide something for our client in the situation of when there is congestion. And matter of fact, I believe it was this past summer, there was a water main that broke on Sandaway. They could not leave their house. They were locked in. We're proposing to do what you call a double-loaded garage. They would use their garage, mostly obviously from Sandpiper, but in case of an emergency, if they had to leave, they could exit out onto Sandaway. Now, the house to the west of us has that same option. They actually have a driveway that is along Sandpiper and Sandaway, so they can get in and out of there. They are not locked in. Again, another overview. This is actually looking at Sandaway Lane, and you're seeing, again, what we're proposing. You know, one of the things, and I definitely realize what we are asking tonight. We are asking relief from a front setback and a side street setback. In reality, in a typical layout, this would actually just be a rear setback and a side setback when we look at it. We took dimensions of other setbacks that are allowed in Delray Beach. We didn't try to create something totally new. Again, we are R1 AAA. Okay, so that's important to understand because the criteria for that zoning is a lot stricter than what this lot size actually is. So right in here, you're seeing our site plan. You're seeing how Sandaway runs into it. It is an existing one-story house, as we know. It was built in 1950, designed by Sam Ogren. They're your setbacks. Again, that's R1 AAA setbacks. As staff has pointed out in the report, it is non-conforming. They do encroach into the front setback along the west side, which is 5 feet, and then they encroach 13.1 along the north side, which is considered a side street, which the criteria would be 17 feet. Again, the narrow streets that are feeding in here. Now you're coming to what we're calling our proposed site plan. I'm going to kind of click right through and then walk us back through it. Okay, so I think one of the things that happened, so I believe the renovations that occurred that staff found, it was roughly around 2008 and went to 2012 that they renovated this home. The renovations were not done by my clients. My clients bought this house in 2013. One of the things when you buy into this neighborhood where it is so unique and charming is you actually don't realize some of the negatives, and the negatives were where the house was located and how the traffic works around them. What was unique also is the sense of the code in the LDRs is every home has to have 2 parking spaces. Okay, and the 2 parking spaces cannot be within the front setback. So now you've got a 35-foot front setback, and then you go west. So that's where the car parking would have to be, but it can't because it doesn't meet the LDRs. I believe, and I'm just winging this, I believe what happened was in 2008, staff said, how are you going to get parking? Because they eliminated a garage. The previous people eliminated a garage and turned it into living space. There's a little leg at the bottom of this house, right along Sandpiper, where I believe maybe somebody was being creative and said, we will have tandem parking there, satisfy the code. The code would not be in the front setback, and I think that's how they did it. Our client has been wondering, why do we have this little leg of parking over there? It makes no sense. It does make sense looking back at how maybe the permits were given to this property. So here's what we have for setbacks. This is what you are looking at tonight. We are looking at a side street setback, which is 17. We want to bring it down to 10. In this same area of Delray, you have Sea Spray and you have Beach Drive. The houses all have double frontage. Along the top, the back is considered the rear, and that's where they have parking and or setbacks that are between 10 and 12 feet. We went with 10 feet. One of the things that we're trying to do here is we're trying to provide proper exiting off of the property so that a car can pull out of the garage. The 10 feet we felt was suitable for a car to come out, look both ways, and then pull out. Now, the other part that we are asking for that we know is the front setback. So the front setback in R1 AAA is 35 feet. The current house was built at 30 and has a 5-foot encroachment. We're asking to go down to 7'6". One of the things that you look at is this a reasonable request on what we are asking, and when you look at the sizes. Now, the minimum lot size in R1 AAA is 12,500. I think there might have been a typo in staff's report. I think it said 12,000. We are 12,500. Again, the setbacks and everything, dimensions are different than what we have. When you look at what our lot is, it is 9,163. So what does that tell you? We're more than 3,000 square feet less than the minimum. And that's important to understand because guess what? If we had those extra 3,000 square feet, we probably wouldn't be here tonight. I could probably get the garage on this property. I think what's also important to understand is the zoning again. R1 AAA. R1 AA requires 9,500. We still wouldn't even meet that zoning. So understand this is a hardship that has not been brought on by my client, but it's actually just the zoning that's in this area. Quick little layout of what we're proposing on the left-hand side. It's just basically the floor plan of the garage. When you look at the dimensions, we feel these are very minimal for what you would call a two-car garage. We're basically dealing with 21 feet 4 inches by 20 foot 8. Again, it's double loaded. We're trying to relieve the congestion that could happen on Sandpiper and let them get out the back side. Those are the two areas in red are where the nonconformity exists in the front of this property already. Again, not created by my client. And here are some quick elevations that you're looking at. Basically, you're seeing this is the proposed. On the left side is the west elevation. That's where we're coming down to 7'6". On the right-hand side, you're looking at the south elevation. That's what you would see coming from Sandpiper. And on the north, that is what you would see from Sandaway. We're actually trying to tie in the elevations with the original Sam Mogren house. So the eaves are going to be matching what he had originally done. Basically, you're looking at 11 foot from actual finished grade. Mean roof height is 35 feet in this area, so we are well below what is considered the code. There's where your setbacks are showing, where you're seeing how this is being encroached. Again, over on the west side, which is the left-hand side, there's a hatch portion with a sloped roof. That's actually existing, so you can see where we're pulling it back in from what is already existing there. When we look at this is just a quick thing. I want to go around the areas we're going to be dealing with. I'm calling out 11 properties. Basically, what I'm showing is down at the bottom there on the slide is the square footages. So what you're going to find is out of 11 homes around here, only one actually meets code when it comes to lot size. As you're going through, again, the lot sizes minimum are 12,500. As you go through every single one, there are a handful that are 11,000. And then all of a sudden they start dropping down. 2,000. You're talking about, there's the one. That is the one that actually does exceed the code. All the rest are in that 8,000 range. So again, you're finding out an area that, once again, is unique, but unfortunately the zoning doesn't match it. Now, if you were to come in and start rezoning everything, it's almost like spot zoning. You don't want to be doing that. I think the zoning is appropriate for this area, especially with all the homes that are built typically in this area. It's just you have an enclave of homes that have small lots. So basically, here's our front elevation. This is what is considered the west. You are seeing a portion of the garage on the left-hand side. We feel it's still quite charming. It's quite in harmony with the neighborhood. This is along the north side. That would be exiting out onto Sandaway. And then there's the front that's coming from Sandpiper. So the criteria tonight that we'll be looking at for you guys is the following. Now, I realize you have to meet or you have to agree with everything that's on this list. Pursuant to LDR Section 1.7E1 and C1, the Board of Adjustment has the authority to grant variances and hear appeals from provisions of the supplementary district regulations based district development standards, LDR Section 4.3.4, for single-family or duplex uses unless otherwise stated. Pursuant to LDR Section 2.4.11 A5, A through F, variance findings. The following findings must be made prior to the approval of the variance. A, that a special condition and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land, structure, and building involved and which are not generally applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings subject to the same zoning. The matter of economic hardship shall not constitute the basis for the granting of this variance. Well, I believe we've established that the land is actually below the minimal square footages. You're finding out that this is a non-conforming structure. Basically, when you're looking at this site, everything that is non-conforming and not meeting the standards were not created by my client. We do believe that due to their location, the orientation of the site, they actually meet this criteria, and we believe that should there be another site like this, we believe, well, we would hope that the board would agree with us that the variances are justified. B, that the literal interpretation of the regulations would deprive the applicant of the rights commonly enjoyed by other properties subject to the same zoning. Again, we feel that what we're asking for is a two-car garage. We're asking for them to actually get onto their property and leave their property like so many other people get to enjoy in Delray Beach. Again, they're in a unique situation in which the roads themselves are not actually creating a good way in and out of their property. So again, we feel that this is not caused by them. That the special conditions and circumstances have not been a result of their actions of the applicant. Again, you would say, well, wait a minute, they want the two-car garage. But it's all the other things on top that they didn't create. So these actions were not generated by them. They didn't create a road that is literally a one-way street bypassing Sandaway that actually doesn't have a proper cul-de-sac and that it's narrow. They didn't create Sandaway that is also narrow. So we feel these are not circumstances that were caused by them. That granting the variance will not confer onto the applicant any special privileges that is denied to other lands, structures, and buildings under the same zoning. Neither permitted nor non-conforming uses of neighborhood land, structures, or buildings under the same zoning shall be considered grounds for the issuance of the variance. So we're not comparing us to anybody else. We actually feel we stand alone on this request that we have tonight. I believe there are a lot of variances that have been given in this area, but again, we feel ours are totally unique to this property. That the reasons set forth in the variance petition justify the granting of the variance, and that the variance is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, and structure. Again, we talked about the size of what we're proposing. We're using setbacks that are actually found in other parts of Delray that are acceptable, so we feel that this is the minimal and would satisfy the purpose of my clients being able to leave their property when they want. F, that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the existing regulations, will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. What we have in closing tonight is the following. We're dealing with a house that is totally in harmony with the neighborhood. What we're proposing is only going to help actually the public welfare from somebody getting out of this property as opposed to trying to drive over somebody's lawn or something to get out of a narrow street. I think you also are dealing with a 1950 single-story structure, which is most common in that area, getting knocked down for two-story structures. Again, this is one of those things where you look at it and you say, you know what? This is the one where you do say, we think we deserve those variances. I'm hoping the board will agree with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we're going to have staff presentation, please.
All right. Good evening, board. For the record, Alexis Rosenberg, Senior Planner, and I'd like to enter in file number 2024-053, which are the two variance requests to LDR section 4.3.4K for the two variances to the front setback and the side street setback. All right, so just to recap on the general information, the property location is 325 Sandpiper Lane, which is a little over 0.2 acres. It's currently developed with a single-family residence, and it's zoned single-family residential R1 AAA and within the North Beach Overlay District. Here is an aerial view of the subject site. It is surrounded by single-family residences on all sides, with Sandaway Lane to the north and Sandpiper Lane to the south. And here are pictures of the adjacent properties. Again, all of them are single-family residences, and they're also zoned R1 AAA single-family zoning, and also located within the North Beach Overlay District. So just to recap again, the applicant is requesting two variances. One, to reduce the existing front setback from 30 feet to 7 feet 6 inches, whereas a minimum of 35 feet is required. And the other is to reduce the side street setback from 10 feet to 10 feet, whereas a minimum of 17 feet is required. The requests are associated with an approximate 512 square foot addition to the existing structure. And here's a clear outline of the location of the proposed addition at the northwest corner of the residence. As Mr. Eliopoulos mentioned, the west property line has historically been interpreted as the front. So going forward, it'll also be interpreted as the front for this request, which makes the northern property line the side street, the southern property line the interior side, and the east property line the rear. Also, just to note, the residence was originally constructed in compliance with the required setbacks, but as the as the setbacks evolved for the R1 AAA zoning district, the building is now classified as a legal nonconforming structure due to a portion of the building encroaching into the front setback along the west and the side street setback on the north. Also, just highlighting two of the main alterations to the home. As mentioned, in 2008, a permit was issued converting the original 322 square foot garage into living space. That is on this yellow building card, this portion right here in the northwest corner. And then in 2012, a permit was issued for a 315 square foot addition to the southwest portion of the residence, which is this portion outlined in red on that southwest corner. For the staff's analysis, LDR section 2.4.11 lists the required findings for all variances, and these include the need for special conditions, depriving the applicant of rights enjoyed by other property owners, ensuring that the variances requested don't grant a special privilege, whether it's the minimum variances that will allow reasonable use of the land, and whether the variances are in harmony with the intent of the LDR. So going into staff's analysis for the front setback variance, the nonconforming lot dimensions, and the placement of the building do create special conditions that restrict the placement of an addition without further encroaching into the setbacks. And since the nonconformities were established prior to the current owner, they're not the fault of the applicant. Also, while the variance requested isn't necessary to make use of the single-family residence, it is the minimum variance needed to construct the desired addition, which would allow the applicant to have an amenity that many other properties in the area are able to enjoy. And also, as Mr. Eliopoulos showed, the intended addition is configured as a double-loaded garage, which creates a vehicular access point to Sandaway Lane that currently doesn't exist. But just as a reminder to the board, the request is specifically for the encroachment of the structure into the setback. So whether the addition is for the purpose of a garage or living space, that would not affect the nature of the request for the setback encroachment. Similarly, with the side street setback variance, the non-conforming lot dimensions and building placement provide limited options for the location of addition without encroaching into that side setback or that side street setback. The variance requested is to allow a 10-foot side street setback, but it is noted that there's existing portions of the structure that encroach a bit further into that side street setback, being as close as 5 feet, 3.5 inches from the north property line, which is this portion outlined in red over here. The granting of the variance will generally be in harmony with the purposes of the LDR, and as currently designed, it is consistent with the principal building's architectural style, creating minimum visual impact along Sandaway Lane to the north. Also, the variance isn't anticipated to be detrimental to the public welfare or be injurious to the neighborhood, and the applicant has received 6 letters of support for their request, which you should have copies of. And so here are your board actions for the front setback variance request. And we also have separate board actions for the side street setback variance request. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? If you do, please remember that there is 3 minutes limit per person. unless the person represents an organization or other group of people who are present and who yield their time. The maximum time is 6 minutes.
Hello, thank you for having us here today. I'm Hillary Matchett, my husband Chris Sandleitner from 325 Sandpiper Lane. We are very happy that Gary took the time to look at our property and the unique situation that we have. And we just wanted to voice, how much we love where we are. We've been there for 10 years. We have had multiple construction projects in our area that have caused major hardship for us to just come and go from our residents. So I would say this is less about the garage and more about our access in and out of our home. We have had issues where there's been a medical emergency in my home where my father suffered a stroke. The first responders were unable to get to us. We had to have them come to Sandaway Lane because we were not able to get up Lang and Sandpiper. We have had multiple cars come up thinking that our street is the end of the street or a dead end, and they leave their cars there and go to the beach, and our cars are stuck. We have no way to get out. Burying the lines with the Florida Public Utilities, I think it was, or FPL this past summer. The water main was broken and the whole street blew up at the intersection of Lang and Sandpiper. Again, I was home with 2 children, no way to get out. Emergency responders would have to come up Sandaway Lane to get to our house, just a bit of a constant headache, if you will. For me, it's most important that my children are able to get to school on time, that I'm able to get first responders to my house, and the fire department has literally told me 15 times till Tuesday, if your house is on fire, tell us to come up Sandaway Lane, because we will not be able to get to you. So anyway, we would love to be able to get these variances. I think that the house is spectacular. We do not plan on doing anything else with it. We are enjoying where we are. We love our neighbors, a lot of whom are here, and we do think it's a special spot. And I would hate to see, the next person come in and just level it and put up a big house, which is unfortunately what's happening, on the different streets around us. Anything else?
She said it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who wish to speak? Please come forward.
Hello. I didn't intend on speaking, but I live at 326, David D'Angelo is my name, and I live at 326 Sandpiper Lane, and so I'm direct the butter of theirs. And 2 things I would say is, first, I'm fortunate enough to have a driveway, as was mentioned, and even though I have a 2-car garage, on Sandpiper we always keep a car on Sandaway because you can't get out a lot, and you hate to go illegally, take the right turn down the wrong way, but you're forced to sometimes. So that's one of the things that's really important to them, and I'm fortunate to have that. And secondly, as you can see by this picture right here, where the garage is going is on blacktop. So it's not as though they're replacing green space or something that's no offense, beautiful. It's in character with the home, and I'm going to be directly looking at it. And although the picture showed just a couple of palm trees, it's really blocked. So I don't affect anyone's visuals of the entire neighborhood. They're full-time residents down here with little kids, and they need a garage. They don't know it yet, but they're going to need a garage. So I mean, as a direct neighbor and a friend, I could say I'm all for it, and everyone in the neighborhood seems to be totally for it. And again, blacktop versus a nice house. I'll go for the structure all day long. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the board and staff, and it's good to be back in this venue. I'm here to just support the letter that my wife Becky and I wrote in support of this application.
Mr. Weinberg, can you just name and address? Yeah.
My name and address. Max Weinberg, 2001 North Federal Highway, Delray Beach, 33483, otherwise known as 813 Delmar Way, Delray Beach, 33483. So I'm here basically to just lend a physical presence to the letter I wrote in support of this application. As Mr. Iliopoulos indicated, it is an incredibly special, small enclave of homes, 5 to be exact, that are all non-conforming, and there's a history to that that is also very special, not really pertinent to this discussion. I'm completely in favor of, as the property owner of 1221, the granting of all the permissions regarding the front setback and rear setback. I have witnessed, as everybody who lives in that area, the incredible congestion that takes place on that street. I would also mention, again, I don't know if it's pertinent, but if that house was to be removed and a conforming house be built, knowing the little bit that I know about planning and zoning in Delray Beach, it would be required in the R1 AAA to build a two-car garage. And to not build that, you'd have a big problem. So without drawing it out, I just want to express in the strongest possible way my support and my wife's support for this application, and I hope the board sees the logic, and I'm sure you will, in the need for this garage and this addition and the relief. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else?
My name is Ken Coltman, 1229 Lang Street, which is just up the block from Hillary and Chris. We support the project as well. We've been in the neighborhood about 25 years, and we've seen a lot of change taking place, particularly along A1A, where some of the older homes have been torn down. Our homes, we have two properties there, were both built in the 1930s. Our lots are 50 feet wide, 75 feet deep, totally non-conforming at this point in time. But I'm going back to this project. I think it's a tremendous enhancement to their home. It'll give them the ability to get in and out, especially when construction starts to take place on Max's lot, which is 1221. 1221. So they will need another way in and out. Otherwise, they'll be stuck in that street. So just thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? All right. We will be moving now to rebuttal or cross-examination from applicants or city's side. Anyone?
I have none.
No, thank you.
Okay, so now it's time for board discussion. Maybe we'll start
Chair,
them.
there's two quick points I'd like to make before I begin board discussion. Just first, as you read in the quasi-judicial rules, the board's decision is not based on the amount of support or opposition for the request. Additionally, just very briefly on the emails referenced by the applicant, those are hearsay, so they can't be relied upon as substantial competent evidence in the board making a determination. But that, to help guide hopefully board discussion a little bit, that's it.
Thank you. We're going to start from the right. Anyone has any questions to city
No
applicant?
questions, thank you.
Brenda?
No, I just want to say, so everyone here that spoke, they all have a two-car garage by their house in their property, or this is going to be the only house that has it?
All the houses on the Sandpiper.
So generally the board questions are directed at an applicant or the staff. But if I think the applicant provided some evidence, and if you would like the applicant to answer the question or staff, I think they can.
Yeah, could answer it.
Yeah, so as the public spoke,
I'm so
for the
sorry.
record, Gary
Sorry.
Leopoulos, yes, all the homes around there do have two-car garages. There is one house that was on the property that I think I shot up that was like 2,000 square feet.
Okay.
That house does not have a two-car garage.
Fine, thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Yes, I have a couple questions for the applicant. Number one, do any of the other homes in the area have double-loaded garages? I know there's some double driveways, but are there double-loaded garages?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Okay. And is the goal to use Sandpiper and or Sandaway for access and then for ingress, and then vice versa, Sandaway or Sandpiper for egress? So to kind of pull in and then pull out?
You know, it's an interesting question. Weird analogy. It's kind of like when you move into a house, and you put your phone down, you're always looking for it, or your keys, you don't know where it is. This is going to be unique to them in the sense they haven't had this before. The front entrance is on Sandaway. So I do believe just by habit, they'd be going that way, entering in, and it'll be up to them if they want to leave out that way too. I think it's going to be depending on what direction they're going in. Again, when you pull out and you take Lang, it's only going to take you to the beach. So it might be one where Sandaway is actually easier for them because then they can go west in any direction.
Okay. I know that we talked about the traffic congestion issues on Sandpiper and that it's very narrow. And is that the case with Sandaway as well? Or is there going to be any coming and going from, this new access point? Is that going to cause any traffic issues or whatever on Sandaway?
So Sandaway is also narrow. Definitely, without a doubt. It's very similar to Sandpiper. We didn't do, normally on something like, on that question, which is a good question, we would do what they call a traffic study to say, okay, how many trips are going this way and everything. And so basically you're looking at usually, let's say a house is 15 trips. If most of them are covering to one side, when you balance it out, it would not cause any kind of more congestion onto it. Again, it's basically going to be leaving or coming in, but you're going right into the garage. So we think it would be negative, minimal, I should say, impact on that street.
Okay. Is there a historical I know that the home is architecturally significant due to the original designer and architect, but there's no historical designation on the home.
No, there's not.
Okay. And last question, since construction was such an issue in the area and it was brought up multiple times, is there a plan for the construction of this garage to alleviate a lot of the issues that were discussed, i.e. keeping all of the materials and traffic on the property, or, is there a construction parking plan, that type of thing?
So what happens is now in the LDRs, they actually make us show that on our site plan. We have to show where all the cars are going to park for construction. Now, Max had spoken on his property was 1221. That was unique that we couldn't even get parking on there for construction. So in that case, you do have to give staff a plan. The contractor gives a plan. I'm making this up, but it might be golf carts that are parked up the road. All the workers have to come from there. Deliveries are one thing where the deliveries would come and then have to leave right away. But it definitely has been something in this area, I believe, that staff responded, or the commission did, and started saying, wait a minute, you guys need to provide parking for this construction. So it would be addressed during the planning and construction of this.
Okay, but it's not, the construction of this garage is not anticipated to cause any major hardships or delays or issues with, again, emergency services or, utilities getting in and out.
I don't see it, only because the fact is, one of the neighbors mentioned the sea of asphalt. They've got a big chunk of asphalt in the front. I imagine there's going to be plenty there for that construction.
Okay. All right. No additional questions. Thank you.
Rich, actually, you asked one of the questions that I had. I wonder if, because of the name, the architect who designed the original structure, if it's protected in any way. You already said that it's not. So anyone who owns the property can at any point decide to tear the building down and build something new, right?
That is correct.
So I think that the idea that we are not doing that is a good idea. And the other question that I have is more of a clarification. You mentioned cul-de-sac, and you mentioned that if it was a cul-de-sac, there would be some reduction in the setbacks. Is that correct?
So what happens is there's a percentage when you're on a cul-de-sac, the circular part, and your property's on there, because of it's not a straight shot, the LDRs give you a reduction in a front setback. And it's a formula, and I don't have it tonight, but it is one that actually would make a difference on a property. Again, if this was a cul-de-sac, it'd probably be a lot different anyways, because the fact is, we probably wouldn't have these issues.
All right. I don't have any more questions. I feel like the lot size is definitely significantly non-conforming. I've been in the neighborhood in the past. I know that it's tied in there. Cars that are parked on the street because they have nowhere else to go make it worse. That would be it on my part.
Okay, I have a few questions. So for the applicant, outside of the ficus between 325 and 326, is there any kind of permanent structure, a wall between those two properties?
Okay, so it was between 326, so there is the wall and there's the planting, that is it.
So there's no wall?
No, there is a wall.
There is a wall?
Yeah.
Okay. between 325 and 326.
Yeah, I don't know if it goes all the way through, but there is definitely a wall right over there, masonry wall.
Okay, because that's one of the variance requests is that west side. So I wanted to just
Yes, it is.
clarify whether there was just vegetation or there was an actual wall there.
Okay, yeah, no, there is.
Okay,
Sorry.
great. Two clarifying questions for the city, please. So I note in the staff report that the North Beach Overlay District has requirements with regards to lot size. But is there anything along the lines of a square footage size for a property? Or is it just the lot size that's the issue? In other words, they have 9194 versus the 12,000 requirement, but what about for the size of the actual house as opposed to the lot size? Is there any kind of requirements there?
So I believe in single-family residential doesn't have a maximum floor area ratio, which is usually what we use to put a maximum limit on the size of the homes. In this case, it's typically dictated by the size of the house would be dictated by the minimum required setbacks and also the minimum open space requirements.
Okay, so the main special sort of constraint here is the lot itself, the way it's configured, and the fact that the size is lower than what it should be based upon current regulations?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question is, we've heard some discussion about the requirement, so-called requirement of garages. Now, do we have any idea within current regulations whether that's in fact true? In other words, for new construction in Delray Beach, are you required to have a covered garage in your new construction for homes?
So for single-family residences, you are required to have a minimum of 2 parking spaces, and those are not allowed to be within the front setback, whether it be through a carport, a driveway, or a garage. This property is also located in the North Beach Overlay District, so there's additional design guidelines for new construction. Because this is an addition, if it was to come in through a building permit, this would not be subject to those design guidelines, but typically they do like, and Ms. Alvarez can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's typically garages that are pushed more towards the rear. Doesn't specifically speak to whether it needs to be enclosed or not, but the goal is to not have, if there is going to be an enclosed garage, it not be exposed on the front of the property, so you see the garage door as you walk by. They encourage it. Yeah, not forward-facing garage doors.
Thank you.
Ms. Ramirez, any question?
No, they answered all my questions.
Anyone else? All right. We're going to be moving into board order.
So this again involves 2 variance requests, so we'll read them individually. I'll read the entire board order, including all 6 elements. After each element, the board will, Diane will do a roll call for the vote. Again, these are written in a way that if you find the evidence supports the element, then it's a vote of yes. If you find the evidence failed to support that element, it's a vote of no. This is the Board of Adjustment final board order for file number 2024-053 for the February 1st, 2024 Board of Adjustments meeting for the address of 325 Sandpiper Lane. It's a consideration of a variance request to Land Development Regulations Section 4.3.4K to allow a side street setback of 10 feet. So this is a setback on the north side of the property. Pursuant to Land Development Regulations Section 2.411A5, following consideration of all the evidence and testimony, the Board of Adjustments for the City of Delray Beach finds as follows. 1, that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure or building involved and which are not generally applicable to other land structures or buildings subject to the same zoning.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Alec Hayes.
Yes.
2, that literal interpretation of the regulations would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties subject to the same zoning.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Alec Hayes.
Yes.
3, that the special conditions and circumstances have not resulted from actions of the applicant.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Alec Hayes.
Yes.
4, that granting the variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied to other land structures and buildings under the same zoning.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Ella Case.
Yes.
5, that the reasons established in the variance petition justify the granting of the variance, and the variance is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Ella Case.
Yes.
And 6, that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of existing regulations, will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Ella Case.
Yes.
As a board, you have made a finding that the applicant has met the burden of all 6 elements. At this time, can I get a motion to grant the variance request to allow a side street setback of 10 feet? And you can
Motion to
say
grant?
so moved, yeah.
You need a motion?
Okay.
Motion to grant.
Second.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Ella Case.
Yes.
Right, so the board has granted the variance request to reduce the side street setback to 10 feet. This time I'll read the board order for the front setback, which is the western portion of the property. This is the Board of Adjustments final board order for file number 2024-053 for the meeting on February 1st, 2024 for the address at 325 Sandpiper Lane. It's consideration of a variance request of Land Development Regulation 6, Section 4.3.4K to allow a front setback of 7 feet 6 inches. Pursuant to Land Development Regulations 2.411A5, following consideration of all the evidence and testimony, the Board of Adjustments for the City of Delray Beach finds as follows. 1, that special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar to the land structure or building involved and which are not generally applicable to other land structures or buildings subject to the same zoning.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Ella Case.
Yes.
2, that literal interpretation of the regulations would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties subject to the same zoning.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Ella Case.
Yes.
3, that the special conditions and circumstances have not resulted from actions of the applicant.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Ella Case.
Yes.
4, that granting the variance will not confer on the applicant any special privilege is denied to other land structures and buildings under the same zoning.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Ella Case.
Yes.
5, that the reasons established in the variance petition justify the granting of the variance and that the variance is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Ella Case.
Yes.
And 6, that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of existing regulations, will not be injurious to the neighborhood or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Ella Case.
Yes.
The board has made findings that the applicant established all 6 elements were met. At this time, can I please get a motion to approve the front setback reduction to 7 feet 6 inches?
Motion approved.
Second.
Aura Ramirez,
Yes.
Seth Mitchell,
Yes.
Richard Kasser,
Yes.
Jesse Slusser,
Yes.
Brenda Cullinan,
Yes.
Ella Case.
Yes.
Pursuant to LDR Section 2.1.7F, all decisions of the Board of Adjustments are final based on the entire record before it. The Board of Adjustment has approved the variance request solely for the purposes presented at the meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, staff. Appreciate it.
All right, item 2024-053 was approved. We move into reports and comments. Anything from the staff tonight?
Yes, thank you. And thank you all for your consideration of that last item. Had a lot of good points and discussion. Staff always appreciates that, and we just want to make sure you know that. So just appreciate when you consider everything thorough. So upcoming board meetings, your next one is March 7th, and then your next one after that is April 4th. At the moment, we are planning on both of those meetings. We always plan on all of the meetings that are on our schedule. So all meetings that are on your provided schedule, and if you don't have a copy, we can certainly email it to you. We just want to make sure you all do have it though. But all meetings that are on the schedule are all anticipated to move forward unless Diane reaches out and lets you know that the meeting is canceled, and likely it's canceled because either the amount of you have told us that you're not available, so we would not have a quorum, or because we have no items for that meeting. So that would be the only reason why we would not anticipate a meeting on one of our anticipated dates. And then just as always, and we appreciate, we have 6 members currently. I believe we have a 7th that will be appointed on the next commission meeting next week. So then we'll have everybody, but so far, or at the moment, we have 6 of you. So we appreciate you all coming to the meeting as well. I know you're volunteers, and again, we appreciate your time. So just wanted to remind you of the upcoming meeting dates that we've got. That's it.
Thank you.
Nothing for me, Chair.
Anything from the board members?
I didn't think it was very relevant to the vote, but is there some sort of street parking issue that the city needs to address around there? They were saying there's emergency access issues and people just leaving their cars in front of houses.
Right. So on the Barrier Island, most of the older streets are smaller, right, as you saw in the presentation. So I think that's what's prompting the issue, not just the smaller streets where it's harder to get through when people do park on the street, but the smaller lots that, if you have guests over or anything. So I think that's mostly what's prompting this issue. So our comp plan recognizes that streets on the Barrier Island are required to be a minimum of 40 feet, whereas west of the Intracoastal, it's a minimum of 50 feet if it's just a local road. And then there are some other exceptions on the Barrier Island for certain streets that go down to 30. So we recognize it, and we don't want to really impact our original historic character where we can maintain it. So we allowed that. But I think that that's all it is really just the historic development of the area.
Anyone else?
So I just had a quick question. I believe that there's going to be a referendum on the Board of Adjustment, which is going to be voted on by residents of the city. And it's basically a merger with another board. And if that goes through, does that mean that we're subsumed into that other board or not?
So under the land development regulations, and we saw this when the composition of either, I think, planning and zoning changed with the Chapter 2 amendments. If there's a change in composition of a board, then it's required to be reappointed in full. So if there was a merging of the 2 boards, that should be considered a recomposition, and in all likelihood it would require the commission to reappoint that entire board.
Thank you.
When will this voting take place?
Well, if there's a referendum vote, it should be, I believe, on the election coming up in March.
In March.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So we'll probably know, maybe by our, April meeting or March meeting. Oh, we'll know before March meeting, yeah. If not, it'll be...
Well, the March meeting will occur before the election, so
Right, okay.
It wouldn't be until at least the April meeting.
Right.
Whether we would have
And
those results.
I'm sure we'd find out anyhow, either way.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you all.
Second. How's your daughter doing with her application to school?
So wait for Diane to